we continue the introductions of the Holy Quran by Abdullah Yusuf Ali with the introduction to Surah 31, Luqman. The argument, the final end of things, is here continued from another point of view. What is wisdom? Where shall it be found? Will it solve the mysteries of time and nature? And that world higher than physical nature, which brings us nearer to Allah? Yes, is the answer. If, as in the advice of Luqman the wise, human wisdom looks to Allah in true worship, ennobles every act of life with true kindness, but avoids the false indulgence that infringes the divine law, and, in short, follows the golden mean of virtue. And this is indicated by every sign in nature. The chronology of this surah has no significance. In the main, it belongs to the late Meccan period. Summary, 1 through 19. The earnest seekers after righteousness receive guidance, unlike the seekers after vanity who perish. All creation bears witness to this. Wisdom, as expounded by Luqman the wise, a true service to God, and consists in moderation. 20 to 34. True wisdom is firm and enduring, and discerns Allah's law and the working of His creation. It looks to the final end of things, whose mystery is only known to Allah. And I guess maybe I'll share what was somebody's mantra, and they kind of slipped into problems when they dropped this off, but it seemed to be enough for them for a little bit, you know. So the last verse here. Inna Allah indahu ilmu sa'ati wa yunazzilu laytha wa ya'lamu ma fil arham wa ma tadri nafsum ma la taksibu qadan wa ma tadri nafs and you know, the knowledge of God, basically, from smallest to lowest. We'll get into that more. But introduction to Surah 32. Al-Sajda, the prostration. This short surah closes the series of 4 Alif Lam Mim Suwar, which began with the 29th, and the other two are number 2 and 3. Its theme is the mystery of creation, the mystery of time, and the mystery of the Ma'ad, the final end, as viewed through the light of Allah's revelation. The contemplation of these mysteries should lead to faith and the adoration of Allah. In chronology, it belongs to the middle Meccan period, and is therefore a little earlier than the last, but its chronology has no known significance. So, summary of 1 through 30. The mystery of creation, the mystery of time, and the mystery of the end of things are but known by external symbols to humanity. Revelation brings faith and humble adoration, and is a blessing like rain, which brings life to dead soil. And so, if you can read no more of this, I would personally recommend to read to read Ayat 15, do the prostration, and then the 2 verses to follows. But there's more to it than that. So we will go on to the introduction to Surah 33. Al-Ahzab, the Confederates, the Allies, the party. The series of mystic Suwar, beginning with Surah 26, having been closed with the last Surah, we now come back to the hard facts of this life. Two questions are mainly considered here. Visa 1, the attempt by violence and brute force to crush the truth, and 2, the attempt by slander or unseemly conduct to poison the relations of women with men. As regards the first, the story of Al-Ahzab, or the Confederates, who tried to surround and annihilate the Muslim community in Medina, is full of underhand intrigues on the part of such from Medina for their treachery. The Batvan tribe of Bedouin Arabs from the interior and the Jewish tribe of Banu Qurayza in Medina. This was the unholy confederacy against Islam. But though they caused a great deal of anxiety and suffering to the beleaguered Muslimin, Islam came triumphantly out of the trial and became more firmly established than ever. The Quraysh in Mecca had tried all sorts of persecution, boycott, insult, and bodily injuries to the Muslimin, leading to their partial hijrah to Abyssinia and their hijrah as a body to Medina. The first armed conflict between them and the Muslimin took place at Badr and Ramadan of the second year al-Hijrah, when the Quraysh were singly defeated. C. 3:13. Next year, in Shawwal of the third year al-Hijrah, they came to take revenge on Medina. The battle was fought at Uhud, and though the Muslimin suffered severely, Medina was saved, and the Meccans had to return to Mecca with their object frustrated. Then they began to make a network of intrigues and alliances, and besieged Medina with a force of 10,000 men in Shawwal and Dhul Hijjah, year 5. Thus is the siege of the Confederates referred to in 33:9-27, which lasted over 2 weeks. Some accounts give 27 days. It caused much suffering from hunger, cold, an unceasing shower of arrows, and constant general or concentrated assaults, but it ended in the discomfiture of the Confederates and established Islam firmer than ever. It was a well-organized and formidable attack, but the Muslimin had made preparations to meet it. One of the preparations which took the enemy by surprise was the trench. Conduct, dug around Medina by the Prophet's order and under the supervision of Salman the Persian. The siege and battle are therefore known as the Battle of the Trench, or the Battle of the Confederates. As regards the position and dignity of the ladies of the Prophet's household, and Muslim women generally, salutary principles are laid down to safeguard their homes and protect them from slander and insult. The ladies of the household interested themselves in social work and work of instruction for the Muslim women, and Muslim women were being trained more and more in common service. Two of them, the two Zainabs, devoted themselves to the poor, the nursing of the wounded on or by the battlefield, especially necessary in those days of warfare. The Prophet's daughter, Fatima, then aged about 19 to 20, lovingly nursed her father's wounds at Uhud and 3 al-Hijrah. Rufaidah nursed Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh's wounds at the siege of Medina by the Confederates. in Al-Hijra year 5. And in the Khaybar expedition, Al-Hijra year 7. Muslim women, Muslima, what's the order for that? Went out from Medina for nursing service. A portion of this surah sums up the lessons of the Battle of the Trench and must have been revealed sometime after that battle in Shawwal of Al-Hijra year 5. The marriage with Zainab, referred to in verse 37, also took place in the same year. Some portions, verse 27, were probably revealed in Al-Hijra year 7 after the Khaybar settlement. Summary of 1 through 8. The customs in human relationships should be abandoned when they are, from misguided traditions. And men and women should be held in honor according to natural relationships and spiritual positions. 33, 1 through 8. Oh, I said that right. Summary of 9 through 27. The Battle of the Trench and its lessons, hypocrites and their fears, truth and noble examples to be followed. 28 through 52. High position and seemly conduct for the Prophet's wives, unhappy marriages like Zainab's, not to be perpetuated on false scruples. Prophet's wives to be treated kindly and gently. 53 to 73. Respect due to Prophet and his family, slander to be avoided and punished. Guard your words and your responsibilities. And we can, introduction to Surah 34, Sabah. And so most are going to know that place as Sheba. So now we begin a series of Suwar, 34 to 39, which encapsulate some of the features of the spiritual world. This surah leads with the emphasis on Allah's mercy and power and truth. Then we are told how angels manifest the power of Allah and how different is good from evil and truth from falsehood. Surah 36 is devoted to the Holy Prophet and the Quran that came through him. Surah 37, the emphasis is on the snares of the evil one. In Surah 38, the conquest of evil by wisdom and power, as in the case of David and Solomon, and the patience of the constancy, as in the case of Job. And in Surah 39, on the final judgment, which will sort out faith from unfaith and give to each its due. The chronology doesn't have a known significance. Surah belongs to the early Meccan period. Summary of 1 through 30. No good or truth is ever lost. Human power and prosperity are fleeting, but Allah's power and justice endure, and will enforce personal responsibility on man on the last day. 31 through 54. Faith and unfaith will eventually find their true places and true value. Falsehood has no power. Truth is with Allah. And then we move on to the first of the Tabarak al-Ladhiz, the introduction to Surah 35, Fatir. This surah deals with the mystery of creation and its maintenance, with various forces typified by the wings of angels. Whether we look at the outer nature art of man, Allah's grace proclaims his glory and protects his votaries from evil. It is an early Meccan surah, but its chronology doesn't have a known significance. Summary of 1 through 26. The forces which maintain creation as typified by angels were themselves created by Allah, to whom alone all praise is due, all else is not. 27 to 45. All good is from Allah, who then will choose evil and reach the doom that goes with evil. And then after the origination of creation, which is also called, al-Malaka. So in that sense, it's paired with al-Jinn. But now we have the introduction to Surah 36, Yasin. And this particular surah is devoted to the Prophet and the revelation which he brought. The abbreviated letters Yasin are usually construed as a title of the Prophet, but it is not permissible to be dogmatic about the meaning of abbreviated letters. This surah is considered to be the heart of the Quran as it concerns the central figure in the teaching of Islam and the central doctrine of revelation and the hereafter, as referring to the hereafter, which is appropriately read in solemn ceremonies after death. Surah 36 is a more intense type of that Surah 32 is, in that sense. The sound pattern, the sort of color, that tendency, if you see colors with the chants. This chronology belongs to the middle or early Meccan period. In 37, 130, you have the word El Yasin. But so the summary of 1 through 32, we have the Quran is full of wisdom, and those are unfortunate who cannot profit by it. A parable of the city that defied all but one, the messengers of grace and mercy. 33 through 50, various signs of law in nature and revelation. 51 through 83, the resurrection and the hereafter. So we come across a chapter that is very good for exorcism, but the introduction, and if, the first couple verses, if it's a son of a god or Lord other than God, like type of spirit, spirit of a place sort of thing that you're trying to exercise, the verses therein specific to Baal. But the introduction to Surah 37, Al-Safat. So, those range in ranks. As explained in the introduction to Surah 34, this is the fourth of a series of Suwar in which the mysteries of the spiritual world are manifested in different ways, tending to the defeat and final extirpation of evil. The defeat of evil is throughout connected with revelation, and here the ranged fight is illustrated by a reference to the angels in heaven and to the earlier prophets in our earthly history, from Noah to Jonah. In chronology, the surah belongs to the early Middle Meccan period. Summary of 1 through 74. Through all the mysteries of the heavens and the earth, there is a sorting out of the evil against the good, their final destinations contrasted. 75 to 138. Peace and victory came to Noah, Abraham, Moses, and Aaron, Elias, and Lut in their conflict with evil. 139 to 182. So it was with Jonah when he glorified God, but men will ascribe to Allah what is unworthy of him. Allah's prophets strive for his glory and shall be victorious. And then we move on to Surah 38. Which is an abbreviated letter verse. It starts with an abbreviated letter verse that continues past the abbreviated letters, right? Introduction to Surah 38, Sa'd. For the place of this surah in the series of 6 dealing with some of the mysteries of the spiritual world, see the 4 introductions ago. Okay. This surah, both in chronology and subject matter, is cognate to Surah 37 and carries forward the same argument. But here the emphasis is laid on the working of earthly power when combined with spiritual power, and is pointed out how much more significant and real spiritual power is. For this reason, the illustrative stories are mainly those of David and Solomon, who were kings as well as prophets, and a parallel is suggested with the unfolding public life of our holy prophet. Summary of 1 through 26. Worldly and evil men, and evil women too, right, are surprised at the renewal of truth and righteousness. But righteousness has more power than worldly strength, and is seen in the story of kings like David, who had both. 27 through 64. So also Solomon loved the Lord more than worldly power, which may be good, but may be misused by evil men. So also Job and other men of power and insight chose the path of final bliss rather than final mystery. That was 26 through 64. It said, so Solomon loved, to start that. 65 through 88. So also in the case of the final messenger, his gospel of unity must triumph over all jealousy and arrogance in God's good time. And so we have the introduction to Surah 39, Al-Zumar, crowds. Oh, it has a wonderful verse talking regarding the sensual and psychiatric, you could say, highs that can happen with use of scripture. This is the last of the series of 6 Suwar, beginning with Surah 36. With Surah 34, which deal with the mysteries of the spiritual world as leading up to the Ma'ad, or the hereafter. Its subject matter is how creation, in its great variety, is yet sorted out in groups or classes, all governed by one plan, and created and sustained by one God, who will separate good from evil at the last day. The word Zumar occurs in verses 71 and 73. It belongs to the late Meccan period. Summary of 1 to 21. The variety in creation yet points to the unity of plan. There is only one God. To him is due all worship, and from him flow all justice and grace. 53 to 75. There is unity in revelation, and guidance comes from Allah alone. Turn to him only, for all else is false. Oh, did I not say 22 through 52 for this? Because they've usually been breaking them apart. So, so you can tell which sections. But you can tell which sections, but we have just one sentence for 53 to 75. God's mercy is all-embracing, despite. Despair not. Seek it before it is too late. For judgment and justice will come for certain. And let me find. But we also might want to refer to the second thing of how, like in verse 45, how it talks about those who are repulsed because what they have personally chosen is not approved of. وَإِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَحْدَهُ اشْمَأَزَّتْ قُلُوبُ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ وَإِذَا ذُكِرَ الَّذِينَ مِن دُونِهِ إِذَا هُمْ يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ. And the opposite of the faith under fire, I don't know, that show's been gone a long time, but that sort of approach to difference. We have verse 23 of 39. Allahu nazala ahsan al-hadith kitaban munashabihan mathaniya takshairu minhu ladina yakshawna rabbahum thumma talinu juluhum wa qulubuhum ila dhikrillahi dhalika yahdi bihi man yasha'u wa man yudlilillahu fama lahu min had. So the pleasing of the emotions, the senses, and the thoughts. Along with the belief of the message. But we have one last chapter to regard here. We have the introduction to Surah 40, Ghafir, or Al-Mu'min. So the forgiver or the believer. And isn't this the chapter that kind of answers people that say, oh, Joseph was only mentioned in one chapter? This surah is called Ghafir, forgiver, see verse 3. It is also called the believer, Al-Mu'min, from the story of the individual believer among the people of Pharaoh, who declares his faith and looks to the future. Verses 28 through 45. In Surah 23, called the believers, Al-Mu'minun, the argument was about the collective force of faith and virtue. Here it is about the individual witness to faith and virtue and his triumph in the end. We now begin a series of 7 Suwar, 40 to 46, to which are affixed the abbreviated letters Ha-Mim chronologically. They all belong to the same period, the latter Meccan period, and they immediately follow the last surah in time. About the abbreviated letters generally, see Appendix 1 at the end of Surah 2. As to the precise meaning of Ha-Mim, no authoritative explanation is available. If Mim here has a signification similar to Mim and Alif Lam Mim, it means the end of things, the last day, and in all these suwar, direct your special attention to that Ha, the emphatic guttural, in contrast with the softer breathing of Aleph, may be meant to suggest that the beginning is only for the end, the present for the future, and to emphasize the eschatological element in faith. But this is mere conjecture and should be taken for more than it is worth. And some of the Sufis would say Ha-Mim, Ha-Mim, Ha-Mim means in Qaf, Ha-Mim, Ha-Mim, Ha-Mim. I think the last one is, so they'd form a box around themselves, but the general theme above would be the Ha-Mim means in Qaf. But the general theme of the whole series is the relation of faith to unfaith, revelation to rejection, goodness to evil, truth to falsehood. It is shown the first line in each of these pairs is the real friend, helper, and protector of man, while the second is his enemy. The very word Ha-Mim is in that sense used in Suratain 40 and 41. 40 at 18, 41 at 34. While in the other suwar, we have the words of equivalent import. Wali or Nasir 42:8 and 31. Qareen, 43, 36 and 38. Mala, 44, 41. Awliya are Nasireen, 45, 19 and 34. And Awliya, 46, 32. It is permissible to connect the abbreviated letters Ha-Mim with these ideas as expressed in the word Ha-Mim. You know, that's a question here. Another suggestion worthy of consideration is that Ha stands for Hayya and Mim for Qayyum. These are two attributes of Allah, meaning the living and the self-subsisting eternal. The one points to life and revelation, the other to the hereafter and eternity, and both these matters are specially dealt with 7 Ha-Mim Suwar. The first letter of Hay, Ha, is appropriate for life, and then the last letter of Qayyum is appropriate for the last days. The Ma'ad, the hereafter, again, this is merely conjecture and should not be taken for more than it's worth. So, you know, you form the box and you have the center of the box, basically, is how you close the bit there. But summary of 1 through 20, faith is ever justified, for Allah forgives, but evil deeds must have evil fruits, for Allah knows and is just. 21 through 50, in all history, evil came to evil. The protest of faith in the midst of evil may be ignored, but faith is protected by law while evil perishes. 51 through 85, no doubt is there of the final judgment. The power, goodness, and justice of God are manifest. Will man dispute, or will he accept the signs before it is too late? So 51 through 85 here, and let me figure out the verse about Joseph before I go. So 8:34. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ يُوسُفُ مِنْ قَبْلُ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ فَمَا زِلْتُمْ فِي شَكٍّ مِمَّا جَاءَكُمْ بِهِ حَتَّى إِذَا هَلَكَ قُلْتُمْ لَنْ يَبْعَثَ اللَّهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ رَسُولًا كَذَلِكَ يُضِلُّ اللَّهُ مَنْ هُوَ مُسْرِفٌ مُرْتَابٌ الَّذِينَ يُجَادِلُونَ فِي آيَاتِ اللَّهِ مِنْ غَيْرِ سُلْطَانٍ أَتَاهُمْ كَبُرَ مَقْتًا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ وَعِنْدَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كَذَلِكَ يُطْبِعُ اللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ قَلْبٍ مُتَكَبِّرٍ جَبَّارٍ. Okay, so I accidentally said verse 35, Aladina Yujadalun to Jabbar. So one of the things that people think is that, oh, there was once a messenger and he was so great that there's never going to be another one. There's more to it than that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.